Welcome to Regent Park TV News. I'm your host, Chloe Nguyen-Drury. At 5 p.m. on October 26, 2020, the SDP Stakeholders table met over the online platform Zoom to discuss and make decisions related to the City of Toronto's SDP funding allocation for Regent Park. The first part of the meeting was chaired by Diana Mavundize, a Community Development Coordinator with Dixon Hall and member of the SDP Coordinating Committee. Diana began with an acknowledgement of all the co-chairs and SDP committee representatives and outlined the purpose of the meeting. According to Diana, today's SDP Stakeholders Table meeting was entirely devoted to finalizing the $625,000 of project activities for submission to the City of Toronto. The meeting began with a land acknowledgement. Following the land acknowledgement, Diana facilitated a check to see if the required number of residents were present when the quorum was met. 25 people were recorded being present, including 16 Regent Park residents. Quorum was confirmed. Next, Diana proceeded on a review of a guiding principles document, which was both shared online and read.
I'm going to read them as we go along. Today, we're gathered as a community to go over the final budget of the Regent Park SDP action plans. We need to be reminded that this decision-making process is a collaboration of a community working together to achieve its social development plan goal of an inclusive and cohesive Regent Park. In doing so, we want to foster a safe, fair, respectful, and inclusive space for all. We will be guided by the following principles in our decision-making. And by the way, these principles are coming from our terms of reference, so that we stay focused on the greater good of the neighborhood rather than individual interests. That we recognize that we are all on the same team that is dedicated to Regent Park and its well-being. That we encourage a full group participation and be open to different perspectives. That we consider the voices, experiences, and perspective of those not represented in the meeting. That we be inclusive of all people groups, regardless of social standing, economic means, housing type, spirituality, religion, culture, race, gender expression, sexual orientation, ability, or age. That any behavior conflicting with these principles will be addressed by the SDP co-chairs. So those are our guiding principles.
After the guiding principles was read, Ismail Afra provided a background related to the city funding and a timeline beginning in November of 2018, when the community first began the process of identifying SDP projects and advocating for funding from the city, leading to today's meeting, the final submission of an SDP-approved budget of activities. Ismail indicated that between the four committees, the current budget request for Year 1 SDP proposed activities amounted approximately to $661,500. Considering the city allocation to the Regent Park SDP was only $625,000, the main goal of the meeting was to find a consensus way to cut approximately $36,500 from the submitted projects. Resuming the chair, Diana explained that each committee would take 3 minutes to provide a high-level presentation of their submitted project activities and budget. The first presentation was by the Community Building Group, who submitted a budget of $198,000.
So I'll just read out our goal for the community building is to create accessible informal and informal spaces, events, and groups to bring residents together and to remove social and physical barriers. And I will present on 3 of our proposals. The first one is a full-time staff for access to recreation. So the point of, or the goal of this person is to increase local access to our facilities in Regent Park. This will be our swimming pool, athletic field, and the rec center. Is to increase social participation and skill level for residents. It's to build network. It's to empower community members and to increase a sense of ownership in the community. So this person will basically be working to strengthen our pilot project that's already in process, and to work on, which is our final goal, is to get reserved spots for recreation for Regent Park residents, low-income Regent Park residents. And there's a bunch of other things that I don't have time for, but there's like research, analyzing, connecting with our counselors and the Economic and Community Development Committee at the City of Toronto. And the budget for this project is 77,000. So that's 60,000 for the staff, 7,700 for the admin cost, and 9,300 is for the expenses. The next project is the event and space coordinator. This is to increase social cohesion between space owners and residents. So that would be TCHC, market, condo, businesses, and increase access to space for community, remove barriers to accessing space, and to increase community engagement through hire and train to implement project. Go back, and the person's main job was going to be to develop an action plan to create events, two events, Sunday in the Park and Celebrating Regent Park event. And the cost of this project is again 77,000. It'll be 60,000 for the staff, 7,700 for the admin, and 9,300 for the expenses. And both of these are full-time staff. Our third proposal is a part-time position for a youth sports league development. So this person will be in charge of creating a action plan for a sports team or league in Regent Park. And their main job would be to engage, recruit, and train a group of youth, 8 at least from the community, that will work on creating this plan. So they will have to find the kids, find the youth, train them, and do research and come up with creating a plan for a competitive team in Regent Park. And we're hoping that this project aims to create a social cohesiveness between youth from Regent Park and other neighborhoods. And most importantly, or another important factor, is a lot of kids in Regent Park have like extreme talent, but they just can't get into competitive spaces because we don't actually have a team that represents Regent Park. This cost of this project is $44,000. So it's 30,000 for the staff, 3,600 for the admin, and 10,400 for expenses.
The next presentation was by the Employment and Economic Opportunities Working Group, who submitted a budget of $200,000.
The goal of the Employment and Economic Development Strategy is to improve the outcomes of employment and economic development and to address the gaps that will be identified under the current research being completed by our community engagement and research lead. So this is, it's basically the hiring of a staff, and they'll be tasked with initially reviewing the data that's being compiled right now under the asset mapping and the needs assessment, and centralize all of the different employment and entrepreneurial opportunities into one place. So really become that one person that can build relationships with the community and be aware of the different, have all the knowledge of what's available in the community and what's truly missing. And they'll be largely responsible for creating a strategy, so facilitating the different stakeholders that come through the asset mapping and the needs assessment to create and implement a strategy that will address those gaps. So they'll review and centralize the data, build relationships, coordinate the stakeholders using a collaborative model so that the different stakeholders connected to employment and economic development can actually think about how those gaps can be filled, and then ultimately implement a strategy. So project management and coordination. So it's 65,000 per year for salary and like program expenses. So things related to the coordination of the stakeholders, printing, etc. Those type of expenses. So all connected to the hiring of one person. Then InfiniGuard, Marwan, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'll go. So InfiniGuard is essentially the only social enterprise security company that exists in Ontario, and it actually exists right here in Regent Park. So the whole purpose of this project is to essentially provide free training to 30 people from Regent Park provide uniforms, provide support as far as paying for the ministry chest and licensing fee as well. And on top of the training, there's going to be additional training that's going to set them apart from other existing security guards in the industry. As far as the funding stream goes, this can be molded to either the Chris Bellinger, the youth channel, or the other one, depending on, I guess, the rest of the project. So it's 30 people. Because it's the first year of training and operations, it could be intentionally directing youth, or it could be the general population, which would be at-risk youth, women, new immigrants. So all that depends on what happens. Like, that's pretty much it.
Okay, so thanks, Marwan. Food Rounds, it's a program for caterers in Toronto, and obviously for Regent Park in particular. It provides them training, access to market. So if they are looking for work, it provides them work, and if they are looking to start their business, it provides them access to the hospitality industry. It focuses on a demographic in Regent Park, about 35 to 55-year-olds, mostly newcomers to Canada, that are facing barriers. And a lot of the barriers are access to the larger hospitality network in Toronto, and also things like not enough access to training facilities, and also entrepreneurial connections, funding, and other things that the government has made available to them. So essentially the program brings them in, about 24 of them, gives them some training, and then it provides them a platform, which is technology-based, to push their talent, what they can do, whether they can cook or clean or do any of these things, or you know, they can volunteer in the restaurants or just provide their services in the restaurant and the hotel. And the next one is if they actually want to start selling food on the platform as entrepreneurs. Now, becoming an entrepreneur requires some extra skills, so we will put them on a cohort for a little bit longer, where they get extra support for about 2 years. And then we give them the access to sell right online. And if they want to start their own business, we'll seek other sources of funding for them to actually establish like a storefront or a shopping cart or some type of a business on your own. Now, we have an amazing opportunity now to do so. Like my company, we do festivals, and we just worked with about 40 restaurants last month, and they are all looking for people like we have in Regent Park that I see. So we can easily make those connections, and we can also provide some of the training in collaboration with other organizations in Regent Park. But most important thing is we can do the marketing for them, which is what is lacking. And we can do so through technology, so we can scale it and give them more exposure, so that they can get some income using their skills, and hopefully get off things like Ontario Works and other income support subsidies that the government provides. So essentially, that's Food Rounds. We are focused on this on women and some men as well, to help them use their skills to gain money in Regent Park.
The next presentation was the Safety Working Group, who presented a budget of $185,000.
Yeah, I'll start for the, so we're applying for funding for the Youth Empower Youth project. Just as a reminder, the goal of the YUI is to recruit youth researchers to examine and map current programming in Regent Park, also identify protocols or responses which will support the most vulnerable youth, and evaluate how all youth interventions operate in the neighborhood, and look to access the isolation of both vulnerable youth and youth workers in the neighborhood. The YUI project is currently seeking funding because of COVID-19 and the impact it had on the project. We had a lot of delays on recruitment, workshops, engagement. It took more time than was originally anticipated.
Can you fix your audio, Isa? You're breaking.
For the 2021 year to complete and implement.
Isa, can you try and fix your audio?
Sorry. I'll just stop sharing the video. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
You can hear me? Okay, I'm just gonna cut off the video. It might just make it more clear. Can you guys can hear me? Right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yep. So it's crucial that we have funding for a year because of all the COVID-19 changes. The project was delayed and the funds are exhausted from the SIF funding. The initial community research will be completed this year, but the asset mapping and the implementation of the recommendations are going to be pushed for next year. GBC has offered support plus CYC supports from the college to guide the youth researchers for the project starting from January if we're able to receive the funding. This work is targeting the most vulnerable youth who are not attached to programming and services and who are hard to reach. Their distance from other supports and usually had conflicts with the law. So here's the breakdown. It's 85,000 we're asking for. The staffing and the project management would be 70,000. It would be 1 full-time or 2 part-time, including benefits and MERC. The roles would be coordinating the pilot project and the implementations of the action items, recruiting youth, building partnership with agencies, stakeholders, community members, and youth workers, and also maintaining relationships. The youth programming itself that come out of the recommendations would be $8,000, and honoraria would be $5,000 and $2,000 for food. We're also applying for the Crisis Care Fund, and we cut that back to $25,000. The Crisis Care Fund is to allow youth workers to better support youth in a time of crisis. Youth workers can access funds when vulnerable youth require short-term financial support, such as transportation, court appearances, temporary safe shelter, basic needs such as food or clothing, prescriptions, phone and or data, food gift cards, and clothing and hygienic products. We're applying to the Chris Bellinger Fund for a total of $110,000.
And from the other safety network.
Sorry, Inez. Sorry to jump in, but Ishmael, I sent the correct breakdown on the chat.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Okay, could I continue? Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so just to let you know too, even that Isa didn't mention, the paying for the coordinator, it comes out from the money that we're requesting, asking for the grant. Okay, so from the safety, it's to do resident advocacy workshops, resident leadership training, mental health training. And that one we're requesting $75,000. I mean, there's a lot of work. There is a fee for services workshop, 50,000, attached project and utilize skills, honorarium, 10,000, accessibility, lenses, anti-racism, food and training material, 5,000. I mean, that's it from here. I don't want to take more time because I don't even know how much time we have left.
The last presentation was made by the Communications Working Group, who submitted a budget of $78,447.
Thank you very much. The first one is a platform where the community, there's so many platforms in the community right now. We have the website RPNA info. We have Regent Park Social. We have so much information that is required for a lot of people that is everywhere. So the idea for the communication is how do we combine all these platforms and make it into something that the community can utilize. We have been working so hard in talking about this, and this is to prepare for a platform that the community can share. We're looking for a full-time position. We already secured funding from CIF for part of that funding. We're asking for the rest of the funding to come from here for 35. And this is to inform the community in a way that is coordinated and coming from one platform. Thank you very much.
So Don is here. And then the other part of the communications, I think there's actually 2 more pieces, but sorry, 1 other pieces, is for Regent Park TV. And that's to support being able to tell the story of the community, to do film events that happen in the community, to film activities that happen, to archive all the events that are going on around the social development plan. But mostly what we want to do is engage residents in this whole process, and basically in filming and editing, whether it's youth or adult residents who want to be involved. So in terms of helping to do that, we're asking for 2 positions, both one for 30 hours a week Sorry, both of them are for 30 hours a week. One's a production coordinator in terms of helping with all the filming, training, equipment support that's needed, and then a post-production coordinator to support all the editing that has to happen. Both are, and then the third piece that we're asking for is only a 7-hour-a-week position in terms of a technical operations manager to make sure everything gets on to the broadcast studio, the broadcast channel, which is, as you know, at 991 on Rogers, and we'll be in market homes as well through Beanfield. So as Abraham had said, we secured some of that portion. So the remaining portion we're asking for, the full portion for RPTV, is basically $35,197 that we're asking for. That's a total request for Regent Park TV.
Third program for the communications working group is the Regent Park Youth Language Ambassadors program. It was initially a 2-year program, but has been cut down to a 1-year program, including honoraria for the youth and a training program for them to learn how to translate things like posters and simple text from their native language into English. And that service would be offered to all of the grassroots groups and community serving organizations for community initiatives, and could be offered at a fee to agencies and other organizations to help to make sure that people have access to information in the community.
Following the committee presentation, Diana passed the chair over to another member of the coordinating team, Michael Rosenberg from the Regent Park Social Action Group, to explain the next part of the meeting. Michael began by reminding the group that their task was to cut approximately $36,500 out of the budget of submitted projects. Michael indicated that the group could do it through consensus by committee members voluntarily proposing cuts to their own project budgets, or the group could make proposals for cuts that everyone could support. In the event that the group could not reach consensus, Michael, working with Dennis Stewart and O'Leary, would initiate a voting process. According to Michael, the project that receives the less votes would be reduced by $36,500 or eliminated completely from the submitted projects. At this stage, Michael opened the floor for comments and suggestions on areas to be cut, cautioning that members should try offering cuts from projects that were not from their own committees. Many suggestions as to what to cut were offered. A number of suggestions that was offered for cuts was around staffing costs. It was noted that staff wages varied widely among the projects, varying from a low of $19 an hour to a high of $80,000 annually. Several proposals were made by members to make staff wages more equal across all projects, as well as to have each committee identify the nature of the position, project coordination versus management, to determine whether the salary rates were accurately considered. Other members felt that cuts to staffing would have less of an impact to other project budget areas because it only affected individual versus groups of people. A question was directed at the community building group as to why they needed 3 different staff members, inferring that the responsibilities could be divided amongst 2 staff members. Community building responded that the activities were different and the body of work required 3 positions. Despite all the proposals in favor of cutting staff budgets, there was equally strong opposition from others who felt the importance of providing a family living wage and feeling that the scope of work justified the wages and the positions. Another popular area for reductions was cuts to the trustee budget, which also varied widely across the project areas, from none to 15%. Suggestions were made to have agencies provide the service as in-kind support. The suggestion was opposed due to the fact that negotiation would need to be had with the trustee agency before such cuts could be considered. The hour-long discussion resulted in Denise, the chair of the communications group, following to cut the language translation project for $8,250, and Nabil Mensa, a member of the Employment and Economic Opportunities, offering cuts to his food rounds project in the amount of $3,500 on hopes he can partner with CCLD Catering Collective for this project's training activities. Approximately $25,000 in cuts was still needed. However, before Michael could proceed with the voting process for elimination of a project, much opposition was encountered from members who felt the need to have an opportunity to discuss their budgets within their respective communities. It was decided that each committee would retire to Zoom breakout rooms to discuss their budgets and return with $5,000 to $10,000. The first committee to report back from the breakout session was the Safety Committee. Nia and Kim announced that they would not be making cuts to their budget because they did not anticipate trustee costs and that they would have to identify how to pay for those costs from their existing budget. Some disappointment was expressed amongst the group, but the Safety Committee held firm to their position that they would not be offering cuts to their budget. Moran Kogali and Paula Garcia from the Employment and Economic Committee reported back and announced that they could make additional cuts from their security project budget, amounting to $3,500. Adonis Huggins and Ibrahim Afra from the Communication Committee reminded the group that they already eliminated the translation project in the amount of $8,250, and their budget was already bare bones and significantly less than the other committees. Joel Klassen from the Community Building Committee offered to cut staffing by $12,000, as the committee felt that some of their activities were unlikely to proceed as planned due to COVID pandemic. Michael thanked everyone and felt the table had done well. However, with approximately $9,000 in more cuts to go, Michael and Denise began the facilitation of a vote and opened the floor to suggestions as to how these votes could take place. One proposal was to cut all the committee's remaining budgets evenly. Some individuals voiced their disagreement to this proposal because their committee, especially the Community Building Committee, had already volunteered $12,000 in cuts, pointing out that one of the committees, Safety, made no cuts to their budget at all. Members of the Safety Committee took offense, arguing that they still not only had to account for the trustee costs that they made, but cuts to the projects even before the deep dive process began as part of their submission to SDP. Another proposal was to cut the budgets from the two largest committee budgets. Others on these two committees in question felt that this was not right. With the meeting in danger of deteriorating to infighting between the committees, the chairs interceded, reminding everyone that we are one community. The third proposal, and the one most likely to find consensus, was to have everyone vote for a project that they think should have their budget reduced. The project with the highest votes would have their budget cut by $9,000. Before this vote could take place, however, Joel Klassen from the Community Building Committee offered to reduce its trustee budget by $2,600. And just as the vote was about to take place, Nabil Mensa from the Employment and Economic Committee felt he could identify project funding elsewhere and save the day by offering to cut his food round project, effectively ending the need for additional cuts. The chairs, thanking everyone for their cooperation, announced that the deep dive meeting of the SDP Stakeholders table had achieved its goal of approving a first-year set of activities and a budget that meets the city allocation of $625,000. They thanked everyone for their participation. Before the meeting ended, committee representatives were reminded that all their projects had to be approved by the city. As part of the process, the committees were required to submit their SDP project proposals and their revised budgets to the city by the deadline date of November 5th, 2020. It was also announced that the city would be holding feedback review sessions over the course of the next 10 days. The 3.5-hour meeting of the SDP Stakeholders table ended at 8:30 p.m. My name is Chloe Nguyen-Drury, and this was an RPTV news report of the October 26, 2020 SDP Stakeholders table. Research for this report was provided by Adonis Huggins. Thank you for watching. Please note that this is a general RPTV news summary of the events that took place and is not considered to replace official SDP minutes or recordings of the actual meeting. While RPTV has done its best to ensure that the contents of this report are factual, RPTV should not be held responsible for any inaccuracies contained in this report.
Please do not forget to like, comment, and share to our channel. Follow us on all our social media platforms, and for more information, please check out our website.